Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Sometimes I forget that it is a privilege to be able to crack open a book, that I can walk down to the library, find something I'm interested in, and just start reading. I'm in my feelings about this right now because of today's interview. It's with Banu Mushtaq and her translator, Deepa Bhasthi, talking about their book, Heart Lamp. It's a short story collection about the lives of Muslim women in India. Some of the stories were inspired by women Banu Mushtaq knew. Others were inspired by her own life, including one story where the main character attempts suicide. And in this interview with Here and Now's Asma Khalid, Mushtaq talks about being in a marriage where she wasn't free to chase her own intellectual pursuits, which to her felt like being in a cage. That's ahead.
This message comes from Amazon. Have you ever gotten sick on a very expensive, very non-refundable family trip? Amazon One Medical has 24/7 virtual care, so you can get help no matter where you are. And with Amazon Pharmacy, your meds can get delivered right to your hotel fast. It's kind of like the room service of medical care. Thanks to Amazon, healthcare just got less painful.
This year's winner of the prestigious International Booker Prize, which is given to a work translated into English, achieved a lot of firsts. It was the first time the prize was awarded to a short story collection. The first time it was awarded to an author writing in Kannada, that's a language spoken in the southern Indian state of Karnataka, and the first time a translator from India won the award. The book is titled Heart Lamp. It tells the stories of women who live in southern India, often surviving in poverty, struggling against patriarchal systems, yet somehow still finding an inner resilience. They're not necessarily deeply sad stories. They are melancholy at times and definitely thought-provoking. And a note, one of the stories deals with suicide, which we will discuss. Lawyer, activist, and author Banu Mushtaq wrote the stories in Heart Lamp. Deepa Bhasthi translated them. They share the prize, and they both join us here on the show. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asma.
I should begin by just saying congratulations, and I'd love to hear for both of you what the response has been like in India. Deepa, do you want to begin?
Thank you. It's been incredible, not just in the Karnataka state, which is where Kannada is predominantly spoken, but I think there's been a lot of fanfare all across the country. So it has been a very wonderful time and a very busy time as well.
And Banu, how have you felt winning the prize?
Yeah, this honor feels both exhilarating and humbling. It's a validation not just for me, but for the countless women whose struggles and resilience inspired these stories, and for Kannada literature, which now shines on a global stage.
Deepa, I understand that you not only translated the works, but you also selected which stories would appear in this short story collection. You know,
Yes.
Banu's very prolific. She has been writing for over 3 decades. How did you narrow this down and decide which stories to include?
As it usually happens with a lot of writers when they write over a long period of time, there is a lot of repetition in terms of the theme and the subject matter and all that. So I was kind of mindful about presenting a diversity of these themes and not repeating, the same aggrieved wife 3 or 4 times. So I hand chose, what I felt was the most powerful and what presented her, the way she addresses language, the way she addresses and looks into the various aspects of women in her stories.
And Deepa, as you were translating the stories, what came through to you about the inner sort of resilience or strength of these women, and what stood out to you about the women that Banu was depicting?
So the characters in Banu's stories have Muslim names, but these stories are not restricted to the Muslim community in a small part of Karnataka, because at the core of these stories is how women resist, how women try and live their best lives with humor, with resilience, with this strength of sisterhood when they are severely oppressed by patriarchal and fundamentalist religious systems.
Banu, how much of these stories came from your own experiences or experiences you saw around you there in India?
All the stories and the experiences I have witnessed and my own experiences, they are blend into a very harmonious matrix. There will be a small seed sown in my mind when I see something, when I hear something, and it grows into my mind. And the outcome will be quite different. Sometimes the story has its own rhythm and it attracts me and it takes me unaware and gives a special effect to it.
Hmm. Banu, I want to ask you about one particular story in the collection. It's titled Heart
Yes,
Lamp, which is the same name as the collection itself. Heart Lamp is a story about a woman whose husband abandons her, leaves her for another woman. Her parents
yes,
and her family seem to reject her. Her life feels very desperate in that moment. And so she pours petrol over herself and considers setting it on fire
yes,
until her daughter essentially
yeah,
rescues her. And Banu, this is a very sensitive question to ask you, but you have shared publicly before that at one point you too considered setting yourself on fire. Um,
yes.
I can't imagine. What were the circumstances and why so?
I had delivered my first child and she was 3 months old. I was suffering from postpartum depression. And the other
Mm,
thing, I was not allowed to have any intellectual activity of my own. I had to remain within the four walls of the house and I had to bear the burden of wife and the mother only. But earlier to my marriage, I was employed as a high school teacher and I worked with the people, I worked with the student, and I
mhm,
wanted that life also. I wanted to come out of this cage and I want to
mm,
do whatever I wanted. I wanted to write stories. I wanted to mingle with people, which was not allowed. And I was suffering silently. And after my delivery, due to this depression, and to revolt against this system, I decided I would end my life and I poured petrol over me when the baby was sleeping
mm,
and my
mm,
husband was also. But he smelt the petrol. Immediately he got up and he felt so sorry for me
oh,
because mine was a love marriage and
mm,
he respected me and he was also miserable seeing me suffering and he took the baby and he placed it on my feet and begged me not to commit anything and he hugged me and he
mm,
within fraction of second I came out of that complete negative condition and I realized what I was going to do and then life went on in a different condition and my husband sensed that he may lose me if he continues the same thing and then he changed his life though it was not easy for him because he was the eldest son of a somewhat a big family
mm.
and he could not rebel against the values of that family but he took me to library and he got me so many books and he took my side and he allowed me somewhat freedom.
Banu, it is such a heart wrenching story. You mentioned that yours was a love marriage, that you actually, in
Yes,
this collection, you thank him, your husband.
yes,
He
yes.
seems to be very different than many of the men you wrote about in the book.
Yes, he's quite different. He's quite calm and he doesn't want to mix with the people. He wants to be in his comfort zone only. But he loves me a lot and he sees me wherever I go and whatever my speeches, he follows me like an ardent fan and he feels happy about it and he doesn't want to control me and he's just like a greatest friend of me.
And yet, Banu, so many of the women you write about in this collection are
Yes,
struggling against really challenging systems of oppression, whether it's from
yes.
the fathers in their lives or the brothers in their lives. What were you trying to depict there?
Yeah, I want to say patriarchy is so cruel. It will not spare its own women. When the women start questioning and the women starts asking the people and telling them that you are doing wrong, it is the greatest revolution. It is the greatest protest she can put forth against that system and that patriarchy.
I have one final question for both of you here. And Deepa, why don't I begin by asking you, what do you hope the impact of winning this award will have?
The ideal scenario would be that there would be a lot more translations from Kannada and into the Kannada language, because compared to our neighboring languages like Tamil, Malayalam, the other South Indian languages, and up north, Bengali, Urdu, etc., there's very, very little that comes out from Kannada. Even though we have, I think, a unbroken literary tradition of at least 1,500 years. And by extension, of course, I hope that there is a lot more attention to the other languages in India as well, and the larger South Asian region, because there are dozens and dozens of translations which are published in India, but then very few of them cross the subcontinental borders. So hopefully, our stories will also be widely read, and we will also be able to read many more stories from other languages in our own mother tongues. That's the hope.
And Banu, for you?
It is a great recognition for Kannada. People here are celebrating even today. It was announced during May, and even today there are celebrations. And people here, they want to know more and more about the Booker event, how to enter into this competition, and how to get recognition. And it has become something like a people's celebration here at my place.
Banu Mushtaq is the author, and Deepa Bhasthi is the translator of the short story collection Heartlamp, which is this year's winner of the International Booker Prize. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asma.
And if you or someone you know may be considering suicide or is in crisis, please call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more. This message comes from Amazon Pharmacy. Ever been so sick that thinking of going to the pharmacy made you more sick? With Amazon Pharmacy, meds are delivered fast, right to your door. You just have to make it to your door. Amazon. Healthcare just got less painful.
This message comes from Warby Parker. What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost, like free adjustments for life. Find your pair at warbyparker.com or visit one of their hundreds of stores around the country.